This episode of the Big Skip Energy Podcast is brought to you by Highland Mortgage, where your home journey starts and ends with confidence. Whether you're a first-time buyer looking to refinance or ready to move into your dream home, or simply have questions about the market and want a free consultation, Highland Mortgage is here to guide you every step of the way. With personalized mortgage solutions tailored to fit your unique needs, their team of experts make sure you're informed, supported, and empowered in every decision. And here's the best part: Highland Mortgage isn't just about numbers and paperwork, it's about making the process simple, stress free, and even exciting. If you're ready to take that next step, visit highlandmtg.com today and start your journey to home sweet home. Do you want to be successful? Do you want to grow your business? Do you want to dominate the day? Then you're gonna need Big Skip Energy. Guys, welcome to the Big Skip Energy Podcast. How are we doing today?
Great.
Good. So I've got Laura Whitty with me, and listeners will recognize that name from, I don't know, maybe a season and a half ago. She was kind enough to come on and share some information with us. But we also have the trifecta today. We also got Wesley Knapp on the show, and I'm very excited to have him on. And Wesley, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name's Wesley Knapp. I've been in the real estate business for over 20 years. I guess what I'm known for is being a real estate agent, but I'm also known for being a real estate broker. I own a company called Keller Knapp. Keller Knapp is a business in Metro Atlanta and Georgia. And we have about 180 agents that work for us. So I still sell, and I am a broker and am involved in predominantly residential, but we've got a commercial team as well. So we've got our hands in a lot of things and do some development work as well. So kind of anything regarding a real estate license, a broker's license, and investment property, I like to dip my toe into as much as possible.
Very good. Yeah, because you're not just residential, you're commercial as well, correct?
You got it.
All right, very good. Now, I understand that you're a Georgia Tech man. Is that right?
That is true. I'm a recovering engineer. I've got an industrial engineering degree, and love math. So
no, well, you know what? That's good, because so do I. My dad actually is was a Georgia Tech grad with an industrial engineering degree.
Look at that.
Graduated a little bit before you, but
I hope so.
Yeah. I'm a Georgia man, so you can imagine how that went over, but that's all right. And tell you what, Laura, just in case anyone missed your episode, just take a second, if you would, introduce yourself as well.
Sure. Yeah. I am one of the founders and a loan officer with Highland Mortgage. I've been in the business over 20 years, and I do everything related to residential mortgages.
That is true. You do everything. So
Everything.
Construction, the whole 9 yards. Yards. So yep. And don't be modest. You are also one of the top producing women in mortgage. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. Currently number one in Georgia.
That's right.
Thanks for bringing that up. No.
There you go.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Hey, listen, and Wesley, you're going to find this out. I am not above shameless plugs here. So, you please feel free to share any information that you want. And Wesley, you're also, you and your brokerage, one of the top, most well thought of offices in Metro Atlanta. So,
and in the Southeast as well.
Yeah, the Southeast as well. So, all right, guys. So the real reason I wanted to have y'all on today was to discuss the new 4-letter word, which is NAR, the NAR settlement. And I'd like to start the conversation off. And really, I want to just kind of talk to y'all, get y'all's both kind of chiming in here. I want you to first kind of just discuss the impact of the settlement. Now that it's been around for just a minute, we've kind of seen it in practice and that kind of thing. I'd like y'all to kind of share your thoughts on how it affects the general public, what your buyers should be on the lookout for, what they need to know. Okay. And we'll kind of start the conversation there, see where it goes. And I'm going to call on Wesley first. All right.
Of course. I would say first and foremost, probably the media, this was a great thing to send out to people. The idea that something's going to go wrong in the real estate industry. The real estate industry, right, wrong, or indifferent, affects people's wealth, people's of fear. It's their greatest investment oftentimes. So by default, if you talk about residential real estate in a national fashion, it can create opportunity and it can also create fear. And unfortunately, this is one that created a lot of fear and maybe some opportunity for some people. But I even read an article starting with the New York Times saying that real estate prices would decrease by 30% because of a 6% potential decrease in fees. Now, if you can explain to me how you get to that math,
That
I've
math
got an
does not
engineering
math.
degree.
No.
Yeah, what they were doing and is bad journalism, quite frankly.
Mhm.
And what they were also doing is creating fear in order to sell newspapers.
That's
So
weird. Never heard the media do that before,
yeah,
right?
first time ever.
Yeah.
And but so to some degree, the reason for me to be on this is to debunk all that and
Mhm.
to make people realize what is not only real, but also to your point, which is your original question, which I haven't answered yet. Sorry,
Yeah.
is really what should we be focusing on? And the answer is not much has changed.
Mm.
Now, for behind the scenes, there's a bunch of new contracts. There's a bunch of brokerages that had put new policies in place. We're fortunate enough to live in Georgia, so there was less change than other states. There's certainly
Mhm.
states where there was more change. The state that the group of attorneys that won the suit in Missouri, they were the furthest behind probably of the 50 states. So their changes are going to be bigger. But anyway, most of those changes, as I understand it, even in Missouri, will be behind the scenes. And quite frankly, the benefit of this, the benefit, if you look at it just truly from a benefit, is realtors are now having to spend more time with the buyers to explain their work and go over the contracts in more detail. Sadly, I do think that in this internet age of e-sign, everybody, buyers, sellers, agents, brokers, any consumer of anything, we get a contract, we kind of read it, we hit send. Of course, usually you get it on a Friday afternoon, somewhere between work and a cocktail, and
Mhm.
you read it as fast as you can, but you don't really read it. Those days of that, hopefully, the pendulum went from read everything to read nothing. Hopefully, we're somewhere in between where it's not just about reading, but we have to spend time with our client and have them understand why and how they're doing that. And the good agents always did this.
Right.
Um, and to some degree, you wonder, real estate is a business where in the brokerage business or the agent business, it's got a fairly low barrier to entry. You take in the
Mhm.
state of Georgia a 75-hour, 100-hour class, and there's people who make over $1 million a year. But the
Mhm.
barrier to success is very low. So you have a low barrier to entry, high barrier to success. I always joke it with my doctor friends. It's the opposite, right? Doctors are
Yeah.
high barrier to entry, low barrier to success. Not really low, but I don't know many unemployed doctors. And in real estate, we're unemployed every day of the year.
Yeah.
So we're always fighting for business. We're fighting for our clients. We're fighting for some situation, and we're not guaranteed payment until a closing. And even in a closing, it's probably the end of the closing in some situations. So how did this change significantly for the consumer? Is ultimately most of it's behind the scenes, and most of it is your agent's going to spend more time with you. So to the consumer standpoint, you're not expecting to hire somebody and then not get paid. There's plenty of articles written out there that say, hey, you don't have to pay your agent anymore. But for some reason you pay everybody else in your life. That is kind of a misnomer. You could have
Right.
always tried to do it on your own. That nothing's changed there. You could always negotiate commission. Nothing's changed
Nothing
there.
strange there. Yeah.
But guess what? The facts are the facts that ultimately, and somebody is willing to take a deduction because they're early on in their career and they're trying to get business, and that's okay too. You know what I'm saying? If you say, "Hey, this is my way I'm going to run business," which I'm going to reduce my commission a little bit, but also for the consumer, the person that's doing that probably doesn't have as much business. So
Correct.
um,
Yeah.
the
It's
weird
all a
reason.
give and take. I mean, that's what this whole thing is.
Yeah, you don't hire a painter and not pay him at the end of it, right? You don't, and in
Right.
real estate, we don't. If you wanted to pay me half at the beginning and half at the end, we would probably get paid less.
Yeah.
But we take the risk with you, and my guess is lo and behold, when you have a buyer that's looking for a move up buyer and they look for 7 years, they're really glad that they didn't have to pay you half on the front end, half on the back end. They're glad that you're taking the risk with them along the way. So
Mm.
to some degree, the system did work and it's going to work about the same. We just have some months of transition to make sure that we say the right things and use the right forms to protect, quite frankly, the consumer. Now, the difference is, I will say, brokerages have taken lots of stances on this. And
Mhm.
I'm probably talking too long here, so interrupt me.
No,
Um,
hey man, this is good. I'm gonna hit Laura up in just a second, so you keep going.
Good. Brokerages have lots of rules going on right now.
Mhm.
And if you're a consumer or you're an agent working for a brokerage, make sure that the ultimate responsibility, the ultimate thing that your brokerage is worried about is the consumer. If you're brokerage or you're a consumer and you feel like the only thing that your agent or brokerage is worried about is, quite honestly, their own risk,
Yeah.
that you might not be with the right firm or you might not be with the right agent because yes, they have to protect themselves. But when it gets to a point, and you can all feel that way, when somebody, all they're worried about, you can see when somebody's just worried about commission.
Yeah, they got commission breath. It's going to be smelled a mile away,
You get it?
and if they're acting from a place of fear. So it's just like you said.
Or lawyer breath. Like all I care
Yeah.
about is not getting sued, right?
Yeah.
You buy a pencil and you have a 20-page document about that pencil. There's the real estate brokerages, real estate industry is not worried about paper very much so. So I will say we haven't been good about that, but you can kind of get a feel of that brokerage that, and ultimately, when we do forget about the consumer, I don't think that's good for our industry. So that's the one
Well,
thing that I hope that we do stress in this environment.
yeah, and that's just. I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning, and I think that's really paramount to this whole discussion is that, you know, the realtors that were already spending time with their customers, already taking the time to guide them through the process, through the transaction, through it's just another change, for them. And to your more recent points, like, that these are going to be the folks that are in it for the long haul that are going to take the time to do their job right. And this is where I kind of want to toss it over to Laura a little bit because I've got a mortgage background, mortgage and banking too. So I feel this, it's similar to when we had all these changes for Dodd-Frank implemented, right? Of course, we go from the one-page GFE to the three-page GFE. Then we take the three-page GFE, turn it to the six-page LE. It's supposed to be simpler. We've had to explain this, obviously, and the LOs that couldn't do that struggled more than the ones that said, "Hey, look, this is just another document, another way to explain it. I'm going to be sitting down with my customer going over these disclosures anyway. I really don't care. It's the same money." And so, Laura, that's kind of where I want you to chime in a little bit. Is that kind of along the lines of your thinking as well?
Yes, yeah. When that came into place, when TRID came into place many years
Mhm.
ago, there were a lot of loan officers that were either upset or they left the industry. And really it was just more or different paperwork, to be honest with you. It brought the transparency that our field that we needed to have with the consumers. I was always transparent with my clients.
Mhm.
During those times before TRID, I would pride myself on, let me show you what I'm making. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not doing this for free. Of course I care. Also love math.
Yeah.
Like love the puzzles, love the math, love helping people. It was a great fit. This career was a great fit. But let me show you what I'm making. And here are a few options of me making this in the rate or me making this upfront in points. And people appreciated that, but that wasn't what the industry was like before TRID. There were people that were, fees here and there, 4 or 5 points, especially with the people that really needed the help. Oh, look, I got, I would hear loan officers say, "Oh, I got this low credit score FHA loan coming in. I could make more on that." So it evened out it evened out the industry where you can only make so much on this loan. Doesn't matter what the size is. It doesn't matter who the person is. It was really truly fair lending. So
Mhm.
I really welcome that. And I see going back now, to the NAR settlement, I, you know, I do loans in other states and I see contracts. Georgia is way ahead. I can't
Yeah.
even tell you how.
You say that very often, but you're
Lord, I know you don't say that very often.
right.
I saw a contract in another state and that there was like no contingency, no financing. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we just know it's 7 days." Like, what? It's
Really, you
not
just know
written
that?
anywhere. There's nothing in writing.
Man,
What are you?
that's a like
Yeah.
a lawyer's dream right there.
Well,
Oh yeah.
very interesting. I think this is just it's an opportunity. I'm not discounting how agents feel because I know we went through
No,
this,
no, of course not.
but this is another opportunity for the good agents to really solidify their place in this business, in this market, And that's what I'm starting to see are the good agents that have been transparent, that have been explaining to their buyers and their sellers, this is how I get paid. This is what the price is.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing well. Is it more paperwork? Sure. But we'll get adjusted to that, on the lender side and on the realtor side. I think what, I'd like to make sure that the consumer is more educated. I'm seeing a lot of information out there for the agents. How do we get paid? What do we do? I would love to see more information and talk about that more, about how is this benefiting the buyers and sellers and how it's not benefiting the buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
Well, so Wesley, what are you saying with that?
Well, I think you bring up a real concern, and with the misnomers and the stuff out there in the media associated with buyers or sellers not having to pay commissions anymore, I think that they're ultimately hurting themselves. And sending out that information, if you're going to list your property and not offering a buyer's agent commission, then you're attracting the wrong energy out there.
Mm.
Would you ever market something, even a for sale by owner? Typically, any for sale by owner website says even just put 3% protected to buyer's agent. Put that on your sign. So you basically gain, in Georgia, 93% of homes are sold in a non-for sale by owner environment.
Yes.
So why would you ever market yourself and lose that type of capacity for marketing? Obviously, there's certain situations where it works, and a lot of those, that 7% are inside the family, things like that basically never required an agent to begin with, or to a friend or something like that. So, most deals are done with agents. And if the smaller you make the pool of agents that are involved in the transactions in your marketing, if I'm going to fish, I'm going to not throw out one line, I'm going to throw 2 or 3 lines. And if I'm going to, if I'm going to get my bait beforehand and I'm going to throw a net, then I want the widest net possible. The idea that you're going to try to cast a line out there to market and it be a single line in a narrow breadth, yes, it might work, but you're probably going to get a higher price with the bigger net in marketing than the smaller net. So
I love that analogy. It's
yes, that's very true. And it's sort of like when I was a new homeowner, I was trying to save money on contractors. That cost me so much more money. And it's like a family joke, remember when you used to hire a contractor? There are some things that are worth paying for. There are some things that are investments, your home and your family's home. It's an investment. I can tell you that I saw this kind of mindset with a client that hired a discount brokerage. This was the seller. I was the loan officer for the buyer. And the buyer was extremely happy when the appraisal came in $60,000 higher, because the seller was trying to save money. So they were trying to save money. So they were like paying this discount broker like 1%. And we got to closing. And of course, I'm not sharing with the seller how much the house appraised for. Somehow she found out from the buyer. The buyer was excited. And she tried to cancel the deal at the closing table, called her lawyer, and the attorney said, you should have got an agent. Like, they would have done a market analysis for you and told you what the house was worth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the people that are trying to save money are going to lose money in the long run, because like you said, if somebody's discounting, they're discounted. They're not the realtors you want to work with. That's like getting let me get a cheap quote on surgery.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it was coming.
It's true. Yeah. It's so true. It's like your home, your body, it's
funny, y'all. I saw driving down, I know we're getting a little off topic here, but I saw driving down the interstate the other day. Personal injury lawyers typically get about a 40% cut of whatever the settlement is, right? I saw, for the first time in my life, I saw someone advertising discount personal injury settlement 25%. I'm your 25% guy. That's what I was like. What's going on here? What are we doing? Come on, man. But I mean, that's not the guy that I want. I want the guy that's going to charge full price and give me the most money for it, right? It's the same thing. Discounts are not all they're cracked up to be. But Wesley, to your earlier point, I really want to emphasize this, that if you are an experienced, solid producer as a realtor, or if you're newer, you're trying to get leg up, this is a good opportunity. Change always presents an opportunity, right?
Well said.
And so this gives you a chance to say, hey, I'm going to differentiate myself. I'm going to do this better than everybody else. I'm going to help my customers in this way, especially if you've been struggling to try and find that differentiating value. Say, hey, what do I bring? Because it's been a weird market, as we all know, the past couple of years. So, but this particular instance is an opportunity.
Well, and to some degree, even just if you're new out there as an agent, then you're learning, and this is the new norm.
That's right. Yeah, you don't know any different. Better than being in those 20 years, like all three of us have.
I mean, one of our top agents started his agency in 2010.
Yeah.
And in 2017, he was the #1 agent in all of Metro Atlanta.
There you go.
Because he grew up not knowing, that certain things wouldn't work. He
Yeah,
tried
you
it
don't
anyway.
want to learn bad habits.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important. And this is going to be for both of y'all. I'm really big on like FAQs. All right. So, well, what would y'all say if you have got a buyer out there that comes talk to either one of you? What are probably the most frequently asked questions and corresponding answers, of course, that y'all are hearing out there?
First and foremost, number one thing is, is this a good time to buy?
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, election years, the second, third quarter of election years is typically one of the best times to buy. And the reason is because the market slows down just a little bit to the decision. And then, fourth quarter, it's a little bit softer. The last few years have been probably more of a seller's market than a buyer's market. But if you bought, you're really happy you did. So the next couple of months, there's a great opportunity to buy and worry less about. It is funny. I'll get somebody who, seriously, you'll have a seller, and this is to Laura's point, you'll have a seller who doesn't want to pay a real estate commission and basically is worried more about the 3 or 6% that they're paying in commissions, meaning to the seller or the buyer's agent, and misprice their home by 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Or it will have, the common one will have is an investor who comes to me and they sold their property for sale by owner, and they come to me after the fact and they tell me, all right, I'm ready to buy an investment property with a 1031 tax exchange. And I say, okay, well, what third party intermediary do you have the money with? And they're like, no, I've got it in my bank account. And I say, yeah, I said, you just invalidated, you saved your 3 or 6% and you just cost yourself,
Capital
gains. Of 15% or 20%, depending on your income.
Mm-hmm.
So to some degree, people who, if you want to be short-sighted, I always say people who think that way have a whole room of dollars and they walk all the way across the room, pass all the dollar bills and focus on a penny in the corner.
Yeah.
And that is the mindset of the media today with regard to this. However, what you should do, I'm going to sound like an engineer for a minute here, is go through the process of finding the best house for you, in the best location. That is the best thing for you or your family. That means good schools. That means good real estate fundamentals. That means that it doesn't back up to, a 4-lane road, or that doesn't back up to something, or if it does, you're getting a discount for it. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, good real estate fundamentals go well when you sell
everything having to do with a settlement. Yeah,
exactly. And that has nothing to do with commissions. That has nothing. Hire a good real estate agent that writes a good contract. If you stick to real estate fundamentals, you will end up fine in any economy, in any situation. However, if you shortchange that, if you think you're going to reinvent the wheel's been created. Last I checked, nobody is trying to change the shape of a tire. Nobody. And, there's lots of tires out there. There's lots of houses and real estate's being sold. Now, you can time it a little bit. You might get a couple percent here and there, 1 or 2% based on the time of year. Mm-hmm. You might get a little bit less in that situation. But if you go through a process with good advice, with a good person, a good human that gives honest advice through the process, you will prevail without fail.
Isn't it funny how I've got 2 extremely high producing people on the show right now. And the common thing between both of y'all, and I think this is going to be true for the vast majority of top producers in this industry or any other, is honesty and taking time to go through things with your customer. Okay. Isn't it funny how that works? And so, yeah, Laura, whenever a customer comes to see you and they've heard about this on the news, going back to the settlement again, and I say, I haven't selected an agent yet. What do I need to do? I don't understand. It's like all this stuff's going on. What do you tell them?
Well, I talk about, I go through some stories about, I work with a lot of buyers, obviously.
Mhm.
So I'm more on the buyer's agent side. I've seen things, a benefit from buyer's agents, getting a house that's on the market before it's, or a house that's not on the market yet, that a buyer cannot access. They don't know because they're not a realtor. So they don't know that what's coming soon that hasn't been posted. I think that's one of the biggest benefits. You have these people that are waiting sometimes for that one street, that one school system. And, there has been less inventory. Right now, there's a lot more inventory. The market, the rates are down. It's beyond a great time to buy, like
Yeah,
Wesley.
things are definitely looking up.
It is absolutely amazing time to buy. Now, is it
Mhm.
an amazing time for everybody? That's when you need to sit down with
Well,
your
it never
mortgage
is for everybody, right?
professional. Right. It's not, everything's not always true for everybody all the time. So you have to sit down and look at the numbers. I'm a big, numbers person too, to look and see what makes sense. Does this house make sense? Does that house make sense? If the payments work. But right now, it's such an incredible time at this moment, with the rates being as low as they are, the inventory being up, and it truly has turned into a buyer's market. Now,
Mhm.
whether or not somebody uses, or they ask me, should I use an agent? Now, I'm not hearing that as much. I think there's more hype than what is really happening, at least in the Atlanta market. Most people have agents, and most people want agents, and they understand. There have been a few people that are talking to me about, do I need an agent? And when we talk through the benefits, I think I've only had one person that didn't have an agent, and that
Yeah.
person was an agent
That's
And
again
Laura,
one
10
more
years
option,
ago. So
you know?
they could represent themselves, I guess.
Laura, is that the same personality that would have done it before the NAR settlement, though? That would have asked the
Right.
same exact
Yes,
I
question?
would contend it is, it's
exactly. So
it's just like, again,
yeah,
that's one more opportunity, right? It's saying, "Hey, look,
right.
um, it gives just like you said earlier, Wesley, it gives your realtors a chance to really be like, "Hey, wait a second, what we do has been kind of, for lack of a better phrase, taken for granted for a while. This is a good
Yeah,
opportunity to remind everybody, hey, this is what we do. This is why you
right.
need us. Money aside,
Exactly.
this is what we do for you." Right?
Yes.
It's like, going to see Laura versus going to see, going online to Rocket, right?
Well, it's
There's a difference.
to your
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
I would say that what realtors did it a little to themselves, right? We post videos, making it look easy online, things like that.
Sure, sure.
But most mortgage brokers, most realtors, most lawyers that I know, they're kind of, I call it the duck, right? Above water, they look like they're gliding
Yeah.
along, and then below water, they're
Feeling like a race.
pedaling so fast.
Yeah.
Right.
That's very true.
So
But I do want to say that from my side, what I'm hearing is that buyers just want to understand what they're getting, what they're paying for.
Yeah.
Well, I think in any industry, in any type of
They
purchase, they
should.
want
They
to
should
understand.
understand.
And I find, I started in 98. So I've been through a lot of different markets, and especially like you were talking about the TRID coming up. I think that I survived and thrived in that market because of the transparency and the explanation up front. And
Mhm.
I just feel like buyers are just wanting that. They want to
Mhm.
understand, they want to pay you, and agents should not be afraid to share, this is what I'm going to do for you. This is what my fees are.
Yeah.
And
I would relish the opportunity to
yeah,
tell somebody, this is, hey,
right.
guess what? You work with me. This is what I get to do for you.
Right. This is what you will get. These are the benefits. And
Yeah.
people embrace that. I feel like they embrace
Mhm.
the honesty and the transparency
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
that.
for
And
sure.
and I would say, for any buyers or agents on this that are trying to sell their services, I would say, making sure that you have a team, you have a good agent, you have a good attorney, you have a meaning closing attorney, and you have a good mortgage person. And when you have all that together, when you've got the A team, good things happen. When you
Yes.
change it, that's kind of like a tripod. If you want to go out there on instead of three, you want to go out there with one missing, your failure rate's a lot higher, and
Yeah.
it's easier. It's a $10 problem when we start the process. It's $1,000 problem when we get further in. It's a 10 to 50 to $100,000 problem sometimes when you're missing a leg.
Yeah.
And I get, in full disclosure, I sell a lot of houses to engineers
Mhm.
just by default
Yeah.
and because of my network. And I will tell you that I remember in my registry for my wedding, 7 of my fine china was paid for by for sale by owners with questions, needing help at the last second, trying to get friends out of trouble.
Yeah.
And it was 30 minutes of my time, but they didn't know what to do. And they said, "Can I do something for you?" And I was like, "Go online."
Yeah, for sure.
They were in other states. They weren't in Georgia, but to some degree, they went out there without their team. And this is real estate is a team sport.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. And that's the thing. It's a roll of the dice if you don't do it. And more times than not, you're going to come up short for that. And I think people need to remember that. Now, one last question as we kind of draw to a close, guys, is if you're a person out there, just general public with questions about this or frankly anything else, you should go see your realtor or your MLO. Okay, that's a given. But before we go, I wanted to ask you about this as well. If you follow a lot of the threads on social media, a lot of the chat groups, that kind of thing, a lot of realtors still are just completely confused, baffled, upset, bewildered, scared, everything. Now, if it's me, I say, hey, you should really speak to your broker about this so they can help educate you. But let's be honest, that's not always happening. So what are some good resources if you're a realtor out there that wants to get some clarity on this that you could recommend?
Good question. I would say, first of all, give yourself some grace for a minute. The next 3 months, although it's a really good time to buy for all these reasons, there's going to be a lot of change. There's forms that are changing. I will say, even of the forms that I've seen in Georgia, it's the F-258, 259 forms, and I've seen them filled out wrong, more than filled out right. So I would say, show grace with other brokers, show grace with other agents, even show grace with your client and say, I've sold real estate for 22 years and well, guess what? This is a new form and we're figuring this out. But, guess what? We've pivoted a lot in this business and we're entrepreneurs. We're going to figure it out again. Like you guys were talking about Dodd-Frank. So I would say that, fear does not create typically good decisions.
No. Never.
So the best thing to do is to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to, the best entrepreneurs I know in any industry ask questions. So, ask your broker the question. I had one of our agents ask me a question and ask one of our other brokers a question the other day, just making sure. And, and I showed grace. I was like, this is the first time I've answered this question. Let me think about it. And of course, it was right before dinner of a friend, a 50th birthday party. So, we're all in stressful situations, but I would say grace prevails. Don't be fearful.
Mm-hmm.
Ask a lot of questions.
Very good. Very good. Laura, did you have any other questions for Wesley?
That's a broad statement. I've got lots of questions for Wesley.
Well, within our confines right here. Okay.
Before I leave, the one thing I will say, if I can take a moment, and this is my public service announcement that I give on any podcast I'm involved in, is that, in the time that I've been in this business, the average buyer has gone from 27 years old to 34 years old. And my real fear about all the NAR settlement things is that will continue to increase and not decrease because it creates fear in the environment. And, as agents and brokers, one thing that we need to do is to educate people that wealth creation is created oftentimes, and some of the largest wealth creation is created by real estate for people. And the difference between 27 and 34, seriously, if you start around 23, 24 and you finish around 65, 70, let's say if it's 50 years, 49 years, that's 7 years. 7 years, you're missing 1/7 of your wealth creation by not investing in real estate, by delaying
compounding effect.
You got it. So I will say, early and often, if you're thinking about buying real estate, get a good team, do it early, try not to postpone it, and basically get good questions answered early, because I think that you'll end up better. Wealth isn't everything, but wealth does create opportunity to make other good decisions along the way. And, I'm sure all of us have made a lot of money in real estate, mostly because we've invested well early and often, not because we sat on the sidelines and waited. And so feel free to call me, call Laura, call other people but do not sit on the sidelines and wait and say, you know what, I'll do that someday. Because your friends, I know a lot of people who've done that over the last 10 years And they're all like, it could have been a little bit different if I would have done and invested earlier.
Yep.
And I don't, and quite honestly, I look at the mirror and say to myself, gosh, how could I have done a better job educating my friends, kids, and other people around me who have sat on the sidelines over the last 10 years? Because from 2008 to 2012, real estate did feel like a four-letter word.
Yeah.
And that was, one time in the history of our life. And, I don't see that happening anytime soon, ever again. So please, and even if you did before that, you were bailed out with time. So there's the only time that you're in a bad situation is when you divest of real estate in fear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well said.
I would say this is something actually Wesley and I have talked about. This is our next podcast, Skip.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
There are a lot of people out there that are so stuck on, I have a 2, 3, 4% interest rate. I'm not moving, I'm not selling, but they want to move, but they want to keep the rate. So something we were talking about is we're working on called One More Door, which basically, like, how would your life change, your retirement, your kids, wealth, your just the whole picture change if you kept that house, keep your rate, keep the 3%. You're never going to get a 3% rate on an investment property, probably ever in your lifetime, and go out and buy another house. So you can have both. You can have another house, keep the rate, keep the house. And this is for people who don't want, 30 doors, all those bigger pockets and all those like podcasts that you see where people are like, oh, you got to have 20, 30, 40 doors. There are some people who don't want to be a landlord.
Right.
They don't want to. But if they just had one door, just one more door, how would that change their financial picture as they grow older? How would it change, what they leave for their kids and their kids' kids? It's something interesting that, we're talking about. But like Wesley said, start early. What?
Yes, we'll find out next time.
I guess we'll find out next time. Yeah. That's something that I really believe in, and I try to educate at this point the kids of my clients that I did loans for 20, 25 years ago. I'm doing loans for their children. I just did a loan for an 18-year-old. His mom co-signed.
Congrats.
Yeah, he's going to college, and he's going to live in a townhome and rent the 2 other rooms and live for free. Like,
Amen.
There are things out there that are, like that. And I totally agree with what Wesley is saying. So yes, for next time.
That's right. That's a great teaser.
Yeah.
All right. So Laura, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, where should they go?
They can go to truthandlending.com.
Perfect. And Wesley, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, learn more about you, or just general contact info, where should they go? What should they do?
Go to our website at Keller, Keller, NAP, KNAPP, realty.com.
Very good. And I'll put that on teaser for both of y'all so that way it's out there in print as well. I cannot thank you guys enough for taking time out of your busy day to come on the show. It's been very informative. I've really enjoyed it. Wesley, we'll have to get you on again, man.
I look forward to it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This episode of the Big Skip Energy Podcast is brought to you by Highland Mortgage, where your home journey starts and ends with confidence. Whether you're a first-time buyer looking to refinance or ready to move into your dream home, or simply have questions about the market and want a free consultation, Highland Mortgage is here to guide you every step of the way. With personalized mortgage solutions tailored to fit your unique needs, their team of experts make sure you're informed, supported, and empowered in every decision. And here's the best part. Highland Mortgage isn't just about numbers and paperwork. It's about making the process simple, stress-free, and even exciting. If you're ready to take that next step, visit highlandmtg.com today and start your journey to home sweet home.